Hello and welcome to the Wheel of Crime podcast. This podcast is ran by two ladies who play games, mumble profanities, and laugh way too often. Also, this podcast does cover topics of sensitive nature, and as such, listener discretion is advised.
Hello, and welcome back to another episode of the Wheel of Crime podcast. My name is Jen.
My name's Emily, and yes, welcome! We've made it past no. And now...
Yes, you're welcome, guys. We exceeded everyone's expectations, and we made it. We're finishing this bitch.
Including our own, because right before Jen and I hit the record button today, I was letting her know that I ate some interesting smelling prosciutto like less than an hour ago, and now we will see where the journey takes us today.
So if halfway through the episode you hear Emily throwing up, everything's fine. Don't worry about it.
Jen will just,
it's none of your business.
Jen will just keep going. It's fine. The show is still gonna happen.
The show must go on.
Yeah, well, Jen, how have you been? What sort of Christmassy stuff have you been doing this last week?
Ooh, I made some Christmas cookies. I watched some Christmas movies, and that's pretty much it. I saw some Christmas lights, and I wrapped some Christmas presents.
As one does. I am not quite at the wrapping of the Christmas gifts. I still need to see them. But when they get in, then things will be much better.
I see, thankfully, I think I got all of my stuff now. So I have everything and I just have to wrap it. Like, there's only a couple little, like, stocking stuffer things that I need to pick up for my husband. But other than that, I'm all done.
Today, I love that for you. You always do, like, your own kind of traditional Christmas, like, with, like, watching Rudolph and Elf and like all of these things. I feel like, because I'm not a big Christmas person, the most Christmassy it gets around here is I have a singular stocking my cats share, and I have one of those little desktop Christmas trees that I put out. And the most Christmassy thing I've seen is there's like a live stream of squirrels eating Christmas dinner that my cats like to watch. So I put that on every day. And that's it, my friend. That's all I got.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm more of a Halloween person now, but I definitely used to be more of like a big Christmas girl. I still like it. It's just, I don't know. I think as the years go on, it's less special. I don't know.
I get a little...
if that's just like a symptom of getting older.
Maybe. My thing is I get a little bit salty about it because... And I did have one, like, somebody mentioned this to me last year around Christmas time, and it really stuck with me. They're like, oh, it's consumerism-ish. And I, like, thought about it, and I was like, yeah. Because it really is that time of year where it's just, there's such a focus on just buying stuff. It doesn't even have to be, like, useful stuff or good stuff. It's just, like, buy stuff. And I'm like, I have to buy stuff to live. Like, why do I have to buy more stuff? And that has kind of put a little bit of a damper on it, I think, because it's just more of like it's not so much about like the joy of the holiday and spending time with people. That's supposed to be like the bigger part of it. It seems like it's more centered around like specifically, what are you going to buy? What are you going to buy? And I don't like that. I don't like it at all.
Yeah. See, I feel like my like love language is like giving gifts and like getting gifts and stuff like that. So I feel like I thrive in this part of the year because I like love thinking about what to get to people and like making like little lists of like ideas that I have for each person, and like that's just like that's the best part of it to me is like buying shit for people. I'm like get so excited.
Genuinely, everything you just described is my worst nightmare. It brings me like I would not say that I'm like a stressed, anxious person as like one of my things that I deal with on the regular. Like I have OCD. That's my actual regular issue that I deal with. But Christmas time specifically, I get so stressed about like buying for other people and everything because I feel like I get in my head about like, well, what if they feel like it's not enough, or what if they feel like I don't understand them the way that like they want to be understood, or what if I give them something they already have and now it's awkward for them? Like I really do like think about all these things and I'm like, I just wish I could give nothing at all, or gift cards.
See, that's why I always like, as long, I mean, some things you can't, but like if it's something that I bought from like a chain store, there's always a gift receipt. If you want to return it, no qualms. You do you. You go find something you actually want, but I love picking shit out for people.
I love that for you. Maybe one day I'll get there. I am there to a certain degree. Like I do really enjoy shopping for like, I guess the people I'm really, really close to, like you, are fun to shop for.
Yeah.
And like my like one sibling and like my mom, but everybody else I feel like just gets really like kind of weird about it, and then that makes me stressed out.
I don't know. I love shopping for my nieces and nephews because they're all at like really fun ages right now where they still get like the cute like little things, because I have like 2 toddlers to shop for and then like a baby to shop for this year.
They're so fresh. They've never experienced life. Everything's fun.
Exactly. And everything's so cute. And I don't know. It's fun. And I've been like trying to like make some things as well this year instead of just like buying everything. So I've been like, I've taught myself how to crochet this year.
Ooh.
Not very well, but I'm trying. And like I'm knitting my brother and his wife a baby blanket. Like I'm quilting something for them. So trying to do like more sentimental things.
Yeah, I love that though. I feel that's the other thing though. I really, if I had time to make things, I think I would have done that this year because it inherently comes with value to it. So it's kind of hard for somebody to be mad at you when you're like, here's this blanket I handmade. I don't think you can get mad at that.
That I spent 20 hours on.
Yeah, well, literally,
you know,
right?
like, yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to make it like a little bit more special versus, because like this year it was hard with the postal strike in Canada, not being able to buy like as many like artisan things off of like Etsy or eBay or whatever, but made it work.
Yeah, we did good for what we have. I'm just entirely 100% fueled by Amazon at this point still, because that's all I got, man.
I tried to avoid it as much as I could, but it was hard this year. I did buy a lot of things off of Amazon, unfortunately.
Yeah, you're like, not that I want to. And that's how I feel also. It's more, if I had the time and the strike wasn't happening, this year would have been very different for me.
Yeah, it is what it is. There's always next year.
Exactly. And with that, we should get into our wheel of questions because, like we mentioned at the start of the episode, we left off on E, which is what today is, E, because we can't just spell no and then peace out for the rest of the holidays.
No, we will finish the word Noel. Yes. So that's what we're trying to spell out. Today's letter E. Next week will be the final week. But yeah, do you want to spin our wheel of questions today, Em?
Yeah. All right. What is your favorite food you've ever eaten?
Definitely the pasta when I was in Italy.
Yeah, I could see that for you.
It was fucking elite.
I believe it. I
was
gonna say, when Jen and I were first starting this podcast, I'm pretty sure we talked about this, and I was like, I would never go to Italy. I'm a changed woman. I would definitely go there just for the food.
I never understood that. I'm like, this woman loves Italian food, and when I'm like, should we go to Italy? She's like, no.
Listen, I know more.
I've
wizened since then. I will travel for
the
food. I'm trying to think now, but what I've... That's the thing though, is that as far as food goes, I feel like I've had so many great things that are just different, I guess. But weirdly enough, one of the foods that I keep going back to for being like one of the best things I've ever eaten is from a wedding that I went to in BC for one of my extended family members. They went so bougie for their catering company, and it was all like harvest style, like vegetables, and everything was like, you know, baked and cooked there and everything. It was phenomenal. I've never eaten food like that in my whole life. It was like insane. I still think about it all the time.
That's amazing. I feel like good food at a wedding too is hard to come by.
It is, which is why like I think it is such like a memory for me, because you come in with certain expectations, and then I was like, this doesn't taste like catering company food. This tastes like I went to like a
5-star restaurant.
Yeah, like a ritzy, you know, expensive ski lodge restaurant that's like a Michelin star and you book 2 years in advance. I was like, whoever's cooking here does not understand their level of skill.
That's a major slay.
Super slay. All right, let's spin for our next question. Okay, what is happening? All right. If you lost your ears and had to pick animal ear replacements, what animal would you pick?
I would want to pick something like an animal that had really good hearing. So maybe I would go with like a dog, because they can hear, like they have like really good hearing. That way I could be even more nosy and like eavesdrop on conversations far away.
You're like, I want something that basically turns me into a supervillain.
Yeah, exactly.
That's great, I love that. When I thought about it, I was like, honestly, cat ears, because my cats communicate so much with their ears. I'm like, I want them to know exactly what I mean when I'm mad at them. I need them to know exactly what I'm telling them, and I feel like ears would be like the thing that seals the deal for them.
Yeah.
Right?
I could see that for you.
They'd be like, well, she means business. Look at her.
She's pissed.
Yeah, like, look at those ears. She's fucking mad. And I've got, like, airplane ears on my head. When they, like, have them pointed away at you and downwards because they're so mad at you.
Yeah.
Stuff. Oh, all right. Next question. What is a niche example of experience you have that other people might not know about you?
I don't know. I feel like we've talked about every interesting aspect of ourselves on this podcast already. What's your answer?
A niche example of experience I have that other people might not know about you. See, when I first was writing this question, I was like thinking about, I guess, a mixture between like hobbies, but also what I do for work. Because it's got to be something you invest time into, right? Like whatever your experience is.
Right.
So I was like, well, and I think I've talked about this on the show before. I was like, I did used to work at like a tanning salon, so I know like a very weird amount of information about electricity. And like, even with my current job, because we deal with fitness equipment a lot, like I know a lot about electricity again. Like that's just a weird thing that's come up. Or like for hobbies. So if we're speaking like though, like a niche example of experience that I know surprises people, I am like very weirdly good at any kind of Mario game that's like the old style of like sidewinding where you have to like jump on the turtles and stuff like that. I think it's because it's one of the first video games I ever played, but they've done so many different remakes of that style of game that I've played them over like through the years, but not like because I care about it. It's not like my passion, but if somebody's like, oh, do you want to play Super Mario Remake 3 on the Wii? I'll be like, sure, I've never played it. And then just like consistently beat every level the first time I've ever played it. And I know it pisses...
That is a very specific skill.
I know it pisses people off. Because they're like, how are you doing that? And you've had to have played it before. And I'm like, no. No.
Sure haven't.
That's just... Welcome. This is me.
I'm just so much better than you.
Yeah, I'm like...
That's all.
I was like, listen, I was molded by the original Mario. You don't know what it's like to be me.
Okay, my weird niche thing that like I know too much information about is 2016 YouTuber drama. I know everything about everything because I listen to like old videos to fall asleep at night. Like people recapping the situation.
That's hysterical. Also, so on brand for you. And we've never talked about that specifically, but I knew this was something that you were interested in because I remember in 2016 you were talking to me a lot about, I think it was like Bethany Moda, and I still don't know who this person is, but you talked about their channel so much that I remember this. I was like, oh yeah, and there was some kind of drama with like Bethany Moda and she made things and Jenn knows everything about it, and I still know nothing. Not a single thing.
Like, I know everything about the James Charles and Tati drama. I know about, like, the random obscure YouTuber who's, like, gone super Christian and is in a cult now. I know a lot about the 2016 YouTube girlies and where they're at in life. So I'll just take that award for myself.
You should actually. I feel like I know more about, like, the drama that's happened the last couple of years over TikTok, but only because of the pandemic. That was the only time where I started actively following like what kind of tea was going around and like what people are up to, because what else was I going to be doing? Playing Animal Crossing? I was already doing that like 12 hours a day. I needed something else.
You need something to cleanse the palate.
Mm-hmm. No, that is really neat though. I like that. All right.
All right, spin for our last question.
Hell yeah. What is an event that you're looking forward to in 2025?
Ooh. I don't know. I don't have anything big planned yet. I know that Jonathan and I are planning a Europe trip for end of August. I guess that's probably what I'm most looking forward to right now. But I don't really have anything else like big planned for next year yet.
Ooh, that would be really fun. A Euro trip. It's time.
It is time. We were gonna go this year, but this year just was so busy with like 5 million weddings and work and everything that we just couldn't make it work. But we've cleared the books for next August to go for 2 weeks.
I love that because I know specifically Europe feels like one of those things though where you have to put a time investment in, specifically to planning.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I know that's probably like every trip to most people, but there's so many different things about Europe that are both like history and what's going on today. I feel like it's one of those, you have to be mindful, otherwise you leave and then you see something where you're like, I should check that out.
I know. Yes, I think we're like the countries that we're like considering are Italy, Spain, France, and Malta are kind of like the 4 we're looking at. I don't know if we'll make it to all of those because 2 weeks is really not enough for all of those to like fully. Month. Yeah. So we might end up just doing like Italy and France or something. We'll see.
That'd still be fun though, especially just like taking your time to do things too.
Yeah, because we want to go to the south of France. So I've never been to that area. I think it'll be good.
Beautiful.
I know. I'm looking forward to it. But what about you?
I'm not a big long-term thinker and planner. But I was going through my 2025 planner today because what I've been doing now is as things come up in 2024 that I know are going to be next year things, I like write them in there so I can be planned in time to remember things. And I realized today that I have a concert that I spontaneously bought tickets for in like March coming up, and I still don't even know who I'm going to go with. I bought 2 tickets and I'm like, I don't know who's coming with me, but it's going to be somebody, and that's all I know.
What concert is it?
Nathaniel Rateliff and the Night Sweats.
Oh, I don't think I've ever heard of him.
So he had one song that got really popular in 2016. And it was like, son of a bitch, get me a drink. One more night is happening. It's very like, kind of like grungy folk sort of. And
Interesting.
that song I remember listening to and being like, wow, this is kind of cool. But then since then, he's made music that I still really like. It's very, I'll have to send you some songs later so you can kind of like get an image. Because if you want to come with me, I do have an extra ticket. And yeah, so I got that coming up, which is going to be fun. But I am concerned because I have another friend of mine who I guess went and saw him before that song got popular. He was opening for a different band. And she mentioned that it's very, that at the time, and to be fair, this was like almost 10 years ago, so things have probably changed, but at the time it was very gospel, like how they decided to do the concert. And I was like,
Oh,
yeah, and I was like, that's very weird, because when you listen to their music, they're not like, it's not Christian rock. It's not like, it's just folk and kind of bluesy. So I was like, very weird they would go the route of like a gospel concert. But I guess I'll find out.
Is it in my place or in your place?
It's in your place.
Opposite
It is
direction?
very
Okay.
conveniently located for you if you decide to come with me.
I mean, I love an adventure with you.
I will send you the dates then and some good songs so that you can study up.
Okay, perfect.
Amazing. And yeah, well, that brings us to the end of our questions. So as we've been doing, I will start with our fun topic for the episode, and then we'll get into Jen's because she's doing her serial killers that are born in December, which is very exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So exciting.
So exciting. So, for my description today, I have Edinburgh is the capital city of Scotland and one of its 32 council areas. The city is located in southeast Scotland and is bounded to the north. Jesus. Sorry, my notes just jumped.
You're joking, right?
Let me continue. By the...
No, you're joking, right? My person's also from Edinburgh.
No, I'm not joking.
That's a really weird
That's
coincidence.
so weird. Okay. Well, this is so on topic for us then. My description today, which was in any other universe never going to happen. So, oh my god, where was I? The city is located in southeast Scotland and is bounded to the north by the Firth of the Forth estuary and to the south by the Pentland Hills. Edinburgh has a population of 506,000, 506,520, because I don't know how to read math, in mid-2020s, the last time they took these stats. So, making it the second most populous city in Scotland and the seventh most populous in the United Kingdom. The wider metropolitan area has a population of 912,490, and in the same year.
Nice. That is so weird that our topics are aligned today, completely on accident.
Very much on accident, because mine isn't even... So, I know we purposely picked shorter stories just so, you guys, our dear listeners, are not sitting here listening to us yap for like 3 hours straight. But very interesting. Clearly we were on the same wavelength when we were coming up with our notes.
Yes. All right. Well, take it away. I'm intrigued to hear what Edinburgh thing you're talking about.
I am going to be talking about the ghosts of Edinburgh.
Ooh.
Yeah, because they have a few of them in some of the more historical sites that I guess are very popular. So we're going to get into who they are and what's there. To start, Edinburgh Castle, with a history of... Or no, wait, we're going to backtrack a little bit. I prepared an introduction. I can't skip it. So, with Edinburgh being renowned for its ghostly sightings and regarded as one of the most haunted cities in the world, it's hard to imagine a better city to engage with something a little bit spooky and scary. So let's take a look at some of the most haunted locations in the area in Edinburgh known as the historical Old Town. So that starts with Edinburgh Castle. With a history of more than 2,000 years and having been the site of torture and many a battle, it's no wonder that Edinburgh's most iconic landmark is said to be haunted. If you visit the castle, listen carefully and you might hear the sound of drums, music, or mysterious knocking sounds. Or perhaps witness strange lights or shadowy figures. Or even worse, get the feeling of being touched, pulled, or a sudden intense feeling of dread and despair. The most famous of Edinburgh Castle's ghosts is a piper who was sent down to explore the tunnels between the castle a few hundred years ago. He played his pipes as he went, but halfway down the Royal Mile, the music suddenly stopped. The piper was never found and is said to be still walking the Royal Mile to this day. And you might be interested to know that some paranormal investigations had been carried out as a part of the International Science Festival in 2001, and they do have quite a few stories from that investigation that reinforce that there is a ghostly piper that walks that stretch of the walk between the castle.
It's me. I'm the piper.
It's me. I'm the piper. It's me. I'm not sure that's the direction
Make sure you pay
going,
the piper.
But yes, it's very the cheesy. I don't know. I like a good piper. I did used to play the bagpipes. That might be why. But it feels very like whimsy in its own kind of way, you know?
Feels so on brand for Scotland.
Very, very on brand for Scotland. Then we have...
Of course, they're one of their ghosts plays the freaking bagpipes.
I know, it would either be the bagpipes or it would have to be like the snare drum or something.
Yeah, just makes sense.
It just makes sense. So then we have the South Bridge Vaults. Hidden under one of Edinburgh's busiest streets is South Bridge with its 19 stone arches, holding a large number of vaulted chambers within them. The bridge was completed in 1788 and was used by local businesses as workspaces, storage, or to house taverns. Business flourished, and to accommodate the expanding shops, tenement houses were built on both sides of 18 of the arches, leaving only the Cowgate Arch visible. The bridge was built on such a low budget that it had never been waterproofed, though, leading to the vaults becoming increasingly damp and eventually beginning to flood. The businesses abandoned them, and the city's poorest moved in, and brothels and pubs started to then emerge too. As you can imagine, this was a place where crime and murder flourished, and famous serial killers known as Burke and Hare sold corpses to medical schools and are said to have hunted for their victims in the crowded South Bridge vaults.
That's fucking spooky.
I know. Which, like, I know I've read about this in a different place, but it was like an epidemic at one point in history where people would kill people and then sell their bodies to, like, medical institutions.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we also heard, or you might have told a story even of that happening in, like, America somewhere.
I don't remember if I did or not, but yeah, it definitely was like a weird thing, like back when they were first like learning about anatomy, and they were just kind of like dissecting whoever.
Oh, absolutely, right? They're like, oh, wow, a body. Let's look at it.
Let's slice them up.
Yeah, and just never really thought about where they came from, which I feel like we do better now, hopefully. Hopefully. Then we have the Banshee Labyrinth. So, this old town rock and metal bar claims to be Scotland's most haunted pub, and we don't find it hard to believe as it is partially located in some of the subterranean South Bridge vaults mentioned in the previous story. So, the bar is made up of 7 rooms and a cinema occupying one of the vaults, and the bar gets the latter part of its name from its green-lit corridors joining the 7 rooms, which can be a bit of a maze, and the former part stems from the stories that the pub allegedly had been occupied by a banshee, which is a female spirit who wails warnings about a death in the house. There is a story of a group of workmen who heard a spine-tingling scream followed by a call about death, and then one of the workmen's family members died just a few moments later. Today, at the bar, people report drinks flying off the tables and being thrown against the walls by an invisible force.
Ooh, that's very spooky. But also, I kind of want to see that. I want to go to one of these pubs and, like, experience the vibes of, like, a ghost throwing my drink off the table.
I know, but then I feel like because it's at a pub where people are drinking, you'd be like, yeah, the ghost just threw my drink at the wall, and they'd be like, nah.
The bouncer would kick me out.
Yeah, he'd be like, quit throwing drinks in this establishment.
Get out of here, you stupid Canadian.
Pretty much. Then we have Mary King's Close. If we were to go back 400 years, Mary King's Close would have been a normal busy street in Edinburgh's Old Town, open to the skies like any other. Today, the close is named after a prominent businesswoman from the 1630s and is hidden underground and home to several unnerving urban legends. It is not actually just...
Ooh, I want to go there.
I know. It's not actually just one close, but a warren of narrow streets. And since the 17th century, there have been reports of supernatural sightings and paranormal activity in Mary King's Close. During the Great Plague of 1645, victims were supposedly quarantined and left to die in the street, which was then covered up and abandoned for many years afterwards.
Ooh.
Mm-hmm. So
sounds like a fun like activity for like a ghost hunter to like go down there.
Yeah, especially if there's bodies that were just covered up and buried in the streets because of the plague. Like that, if anywhere's going to be haunted, for sure that place.
Somewhere with plague bodies, I'm going to guess yes.
Mm-hmm. Then we have the West Bow House of Horrors. And you may not have heard of this one specifically because it's not as well known as some of the other ones. But West Bow House was once recognized as Edinburgh's most haunted house because it was the home of Major Thomas Weir, who was also known as the Wizard of West Bow, which is...
That's a fun name.
I know! I read it and I was like, I wish...
How do I become that?
I was going to say, that's the legacy I want. I've never in my life so badly wanted to be known as the Wizard of something. It's almost like the Wizard of Oz.
Emily is the Wizard of the Lake.
The Wizard of Whispering Lake.
The Wizard of Swamp Lake.
Yeah, at least right now. I can be the Wizard of something cooler later on.
Yeah, you gotta work your way up to it.
You are the Wizard of... Wandering Women.
I think that's you also. That screams witchy vibes, and I think that's just you.
Well, I was thinking about how you ended up at your current place, and I was like, you guys just kind of wandered in whatever direction didn't have black mold in it, and that's kind of how you ended up at your house.
I'll be the Wizard of Whiners.
That's a good one. Can we be the Wizards of Wandering Women Whiners?
Amazing. Yeah, we can be co-wizards.
I would love to be co-wizards with you. That's my dream. All right, let's move on. So the Major was executed in 1670, which isn't funny, but it's a great segue from what Jen and I were just talking about. And after having confessed crimes, this is going to get a little dark, by the way, so sorry in advance. He had the coolest name ever, but he was not the coolest guy ever because he confessed to crimes that included bestiality, incest, and communicating with the dead.
Ew. That's almost as gross as the person who spit in their dog's mouth.
Almost. We're getting so
almost.
Close. Yeah. And then the empty house became haunted, and locals reported seeing windows being lit up by strange shadows moving around and hearing eerie music being played in the house. The Major's house was believed to have been demolished in 1878, but it was recently discovered that it had actually been partially incorporated into a different house, which is today the Quaker Meeting House on Victoria Terrace. One of the staff of the Quaker House claims to have seen the ghost of the Wizard of West Bow, Mr. Weir himself, walking through walls through the house.
Ooh, so he's got like a fun power while being a wizard.
Well, it's kind of like when you and I, because I went through a kick, I don't know if it was this year or last year, about ghost stories and how a lot of people think that ghosts just follow the paths that they used to walk in life. So it's interesting that he's walking through walls in this house because maybe he's following the path of his old house, not realizing it's now halfway into another house.
Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, who the fuck put this wall here? It wasn't here when I lived here.
This is not a wall, it's a door. Here, I'll show you. I'll walk right through it.
Dude was just trying to go.
He's got places to be.
Get some socks.
He's got important things to do. All those crimes he's got to commit. He's on his times. He's on a timeline.
And we need to stop him. Let's just put an end to him right now.
Yes. And then we have, for my next story, the Grey Friars Kirkyard. And it is Currently still marked as one of the most haunted spots in Britain, period, Greyfriars Kirkyard is not for the faint-hearted. It was designed as a graveyard by Mary, Queen of Scots in 1562, and Kirkyard is where many notable residents were buried, such as James Hutton, Robert Adam, Mary Erskine, and Henry Mackenzie, as well as the famous furry resident known as Greyfriars Bobby, who was the pet that lived there.
Aw, the puppy.
And then the graveyard has been the home of many ghost stories over the centuries, but in recent years it's the Mackenzie poltergeist who's become the main star of the show. The story goes that it was a homeless man seeking shelter in the Mackenzie Mausoleum who disturbed and infuriated the poltergeist. Over the years, there have been countless reports of scratches, bruises, and burns on witnesses' bodies, not to mention people collapsing for absolutely no reason.
Ooh, how bad can it be if the puppy is there?
Well, that's the thing. They just said it was a pet. I don't know if it's a dog or a cat. It just says a furry animal that used to live there.
I believe in my soul that it was a dog.
I wonder... I should have thought to do this. I'm going to search up Greyfriar Bobby and see if we actually know if this is just like a story. He's a puppy!
I knew it!
He was a Skye Terrier or a Dandy Dinamont Terrier, and who became known in 19th century Edinburgh for spending 14 years guarding the grave of his owner, and then died in January of 1872. Oh!
Okay, I'm just gonna go cry now.
Oh, that is so sweet. It makes me so sad, but I just love these stories where it's like,
Aww.
Here's the thing, though. I know so many people who like to be like, oh, animals are animals. Whoever will take care of them, they're happy to go with whoever. They don't give a shit about you, blah, blah, blah. But there are so many stories where it's like dogs, cats, where they love their people so much. They will do things like guard their graves until they die. Or like, you know, these things. And it's like, of course they do. Of course they care. Otherwise they wouldn't do it.
Oh, that is so sad.
That's like, I know.
Poor puppy.
But there was another story where it was like some older man passed away and his dog used to walk him to the train station every day. So his dog would still leave the home of wherever he was living and walk all the way to the train station where him and his owner used to sit and wait for the train and then wait for the train to come and then walk home.
Aww.
I know. And then when the dog eventually passed away, they put up a statue at the train station. I know. And it's one of those things where I read it and I think I cried like a million tears and I was like, I'm never gonna forget you. And I haven't. I just forgot the dog's name.
Oh, I'll never forget him either.
Aww. And yeah, well, that brings me to the end of my Ghosts of Edinburgh for you.
Okay.
But they do say the
I'm
ghost
gonna cry now.
is around. You know, it's not all sad. He's still helping out.
No, what a good boy.
Boy.
Well, I'm gonna do like a 180 turn from the sadness. Well, I mean, it is sad still,
Like,
but more in like
instead of being sad, we're gonna be horrified. Similar, but
exactly.
different.
So I'm talking about Edward William Pritchard, who was born on December 6, 1825 in South Sea, Hampshire, to a naval family. His father was John White Pritchard, a captain, and Edward claimed to have studied at King's College Hospital in London, graduating in the class of 1846. He then served in the Royal Navy as an assistant surgeon on HMS Victory. For another 4 years, he served on various other ships sailing around the world. He then returned to Portsmouth, England on HMS Hecate. While in Portsmouth, he met his future wife, Mary Jane Taylor, the daughter of Michael Taylor, a prosperous retired silk merchant from Edinburgh. The couple married in 1851 and later went on to have 5 children together, which is a lot of kids.
That is a lot of kids. Too many kids, one might say.
Emily can relate.
I'm allowed to say this, nobody else. I'm the oldest of 6 and I'm tired.
Oh my God. So Edward resigned from the Navy and took the first job as a general practitioner in Yorkshire, living in Hummin Bay. He began to develop quite a reputation around town, as they always seem to.
There is a trend, I will say that.
Yeah. So it was rumored that he would seduce and sleep with his young female patients and then blackmail them into keeping it quiet. He tried his best to keep up appearance in Hummin Bay, but he joined the Freemasons and bought a degree from a German university. Despite this, it seemed that the entire town knew that he was full of shit. So it didn't impress them at all. So at the urging of his in-laws, he went on a trip abroad, and in 1859, he left his little village and then moved to Glasgow with his wife and kids. By the time he left Humminby, he was regarded as politely imprudent and singularly untruthful man in discredit and debt, according to an issue of the Sheffield Telegraph.
Jeez.
You know it's bad when the newspaper is being like, this man's got a lot of debt and he sucks.
Yeah. I feel like that's how you know the world was smaller back then. Because there's so many people nowadays with bad debt, but you'll never hear their name in the news.
Yeah, I know. Whereas back then they're like, he's poor, he owes a lot of money, and he's on the run, guys.
And everybody needs to know.
And also, I hate him.
Yeah.
So in 1863, when Edward was 38, a fire broke out in the room of a servant girl in his house, which ended up killing 25-year-old Elizabeth McGrain. The fire started in her room, but she made no attempt to escape, suggesting that she was either unconscious, drugged, or already dead when the fire took place.
Well, that's not good.
No. So the prosecutor fiscal looked into the case, and Edward was widely suspected, but no charges were brought. And because he was not found guilty of his crime, he was awarded an insurance claim for her death.
Mm-hmm.
You know, back in the good old days when women were property.
Yep. Yeah, I remember.
So in 1864, he promised his family's new servant girl, who was 15 and pregnant, that should his wife die, he would marry her. And allegedly, with this promise of marriage, he carried out an abortion on her. You know, didn't want the shame.
What? Like, I know he's literally a criminal, otherwise he wouldn't be talking about him. But, like, what?
Yeah, we don't like Edward. Edward's not the vibe. Oh, it gets worse. Just wait.
Oh, great.
So later that year, in November, his wife Mary became ill with vomiting and dizziness. So Edward called in a colleague, Dr. Patterson, to check in on his wife, and Dr. Patterson very quickly became suspicious that Mary was being slowly poisoned. So Dr. Patterson wrote to Mary's brother suggesting that she should be moved into a hospital, and the result was that Mary's mother, Jane Taylor, decided to come and nurse her daughter. Soon Jane was also weirdly suffering from the exact same symptoms. Mary died on...
It's like the doctor... I feel like the doctors say things for a certain reason sometimes. Like, hey, move her to a hospital so she's not in her fucking house. And the mom was like, now I'll just come live there too. It's fine. We're all fine.
Everything will be good.
Everything's great.
Yeah, so... Mary died on February 24th, 1865, and her mom died a month later. So Edward provided both death certificates, stating that Jane had died of epilepsy and his wife of gastric fever. Dr. Patterson was highly suspicious of the illnesses of both women, and when the time came, refused to sign the death certificates. However, he did not go out of his way to inform the medical or legal authorities of his suspicions, for, professional courtesy reasons.
I see.
So, but I don't think that's very courteous at all.
No. I like how he's like, it's for courteous reasons, and I'm like, there is also other things that would be, one might argue, more courteous.
Like reporting when you think someone's poisoning their wife and mother-in-law.
Yeah, like maybe something like that, but, like, I'm not a professional.
Clearly. So, a vindication of Dr. Patterson was circulated at the time, and he took other steps to clear his name. Edward was apprehended after an anonymous letter was sent to the authorities. The procurator fiscal received an anonymous letter which made certain allegations against the doctor, and the bodies were exhumed. On examination, it was found that both of the women had died of antimony poisoning, and Edward was arrested and charged with murder. His trial took place in Edinburgh in July of 1865, and the major points of interest in the trial were Edward's motive and the possibility that he was having an affair with his 15-year-old servant girl, and the fact that he, during his trial, blamed the servant girl and said that she was the one poisoning his wife and mother-in-law, and it wasn't him.
Oh, because it could never be him.
No,
Clearly, it's a different
there's
woman
no way.
who's just jealous.
Exactly. I'm like, what a hoe.
What a man thing to do. It could never be me. It must be one of these other women.
Yeah, right? So, however, after a 5-day hearing at the High Court in Edinburgh, the circumstantial evidence against Edward was overwhelming, and he was found guilty. Edward was hung in front of an estimated 100,000 spectators at the Salt Market end of Glasgow Green at 8 a.m. on July 28, 1865. Interestingly, Edward was the last person to be publicly executed in Glasgow, and both Mary and Jane were buried in graves purchased by Jane's husband and Mary's dad, Michael Taylor, in Grange Cemetery in South Edinburgh. And that is my tale for you today.
I like how he's just like, I'm gonna be as terrible as possible, and then that's it. Like,
literally, he burning bitches to the ground and poisoning people and just being a bad doctor. Another interesting thing that I didn't put in my notes, because it's kind of weird and random, but I'll mention it now, is when he was living in Hummin Bay, people around town complained that every Sunday during church he would ride around his horse and complain about his patients that he were uncurable. So he would just be making all this noise and ruckus during the service, and they were sick and tired of it.
Hang on, let's backtrack a couple minutes. He rode his horse around town and would just yell about patients he didn't like during church, or he was at church doing this?
No, he wouldn't be at church. He was outside of church riding around his horse so they could hear him while other people were in church. And talking about, they call them heart sync patients, which is basically patients that you can't really do anything for.
Yeah, it's like a hospice care situation.
Yeah, so he would just ride around on his horse talking about his heart sync patients.
He's
riding
his horse around being all these fucking people who are dying, am I right? We hate them. Well, people are going to church. That's crazy. That is crazy.
And they were and people in the town were mad because they're he's so annoying. We're just trying to be at church.
It's supposed to be quiet at church, and we just hear this motherfucker riding around town. That's crazy. It feels very, you know what though, I will say, for as weird and random as it is, it kind of makes sense for him. I weirdly do think he probably did that.
I could see it, especially since I think there was also an article in the newspaper printed about it.
Yeah, that would do it, I think. Mm-hmm.
So that's my man, Edward, who is our serial killer for the E in Noel.
Yes, and I hope everybody enjoyed apparently our Edinburgh-themed episode today that we didn't mean to do, because that was interesting.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. If you liked today's episode, you can leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening to. You can also send us an email at wheelofcrime@gmail.com if you have anything you want to say. And we have our social media, which is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, all at Wheel of Crime. We have our Patreon, which is Wheel of Crime on Patreon. And we have our website, which is www.wheelofcrime.com. And if you've listened to any of these episodes that we've done and you're like, hey, I have a story for you, you can absolutely write into us on our forums that we keep up on our social media for listener story episodes. We do them semi-regularly, so feel free to submit at any time you want and get your chance to be featured in the next listener episode when it comes up.
Yeah, and that's it. That's all. We'll see you next week for the L in Noel, our final holiday episode.
So excited.
Okay, bye.
Bye.